AWS for VMware migrations, successes, roadmaps, and strategies. I'm thrilled to be joined today by three of our customers. We have Tyler Barheit. He's the VP of Cloud and Infrastructure Delivery at Envision Healthcare. I have Angel Gonzalez, Deputy Director of Infrastructure for Aeromexico, and Molly Greek, the Chief Information Officer at the University of California. Thank you all for being here. I'm really looking forward to our discussion today. Now, before we hear from these leaders, I'd like to point out that AWS is the longest standing cloud provider helping customers migrate VMware workloads to the cloud. We understand that there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to cloud migration and modernization. Each organization has its own unique mix of applications and data and infrastructure requirements, which is why we offer customers choice and flexibility. Some customers may be running VMware workloads which have dependencies that they need to continue running in the cloud. Others are seeking to transform workloads through migration and modernization, leveraging cloud-native technologies. Some customers have data residency requirements where running AWS on-premises can help meet that objective. And finally, some may be looking to expand how they virtualize their workloads, perhaps leveraging partner solutions. And diving a little bit deeper into this, AWS meets you where you are in your cloud journey. We offer the most comprehensive migration and modernization pathways for your VMware workloads. Customers can relocate VMware workloads with Amazon EVS, that's our elastic VMware service, for a rapid lift and shift with minimal changes. You can rehost on Amazon EC2 leveraging AWS Transform for VMware to accelerate migrations. You may have heard that we just launched enhanced agentic AI capabilities. This helps automate discovery, dependency mapping, and network translation. We have a couple of breakout sessions on AWS Transform for VMware later this week. I'll have information at the end of the presentation about those sessions, so we'll be sure to check those out if you're interested. Customers can also re-platform to containers with Amazon ECS or Amazon EKS to modernize the application architecture. You could leverage managed services such as Amazon RDS, Amazon FSx, or Amazon Workspaces. This will help you reduce operational overhead. Or you could completely refactor and modernize applications with serverless and cloud-native services for maximum agility and cost optimization. Now, these pathways are not mutually exclusive. Many customers pursue multiple approaches simultaneously and continue to iterate long after the first migration is complete. Now, I'm curious to hear from the audience, how many of you are considering a migration of VMware workloads to the cloud through either with EVS or EC2? Show of hands. It's a lot of you. What about how many are looking to modernize workloads through moving to containers or managed services and application refactoring? Great, so a lot of you think you should be very interested in the conversation today. Now let's get to know our speakers a little bit better. Tyler, can you start us off and tell us a little bit about Envision Healthcare and your responsibilities there?
Sure. Like you mentioned, I'm the VP of our cloud and infrastructure delivery at Envision Healthcare. About 25 years of IT experience in various forms over the years. I've been there about 2.5 years, and we focus in on the physicians, EMHM type work. We've got kind of an interesting model where we actually staff physicians. We do our revenue cycle management work for them, as well as scheduling and some other things around EMHM, anesthesiology, radiology, et cetera.
Great. Now, Angel, could you tell us a little bit about Aeromexico and your responsibilities?
Sure. Well, my name is Angel Gonzalez. As you already mentioned, Aeromexico is one of the largest airlines in Mexico. We fly to over 90 destinations in Mexico, Europe, United States, and Asia. Well, I'm the Deputy Director of Infrastructure, so I'm in charge of several parts there, like cloud, on-prem services, network, and several others. So we've been in this journey to the cloud for 4 years, more or less. So, well, that's me.
All right, thank you very much. And Molly, could you give us a brief introduction and overview of your responsibilities at the University of California?
Sure. I've been at the University of California for about 15 years. I used to work at UC Davis Health, and now I work at the system-wide office, which is in Oakland. Many of you probably didn't know there was a system-wide office, but to just give you an idea about the scope and scale, we provide shared services for the entire UC, which is 22 different organizations, including a large healthcare presence. And we do things like the undergraduate admission system for the entire UC, which 250,000 students apply every year worldwide. We also have all the hospitals that we support, health systems. We have 6 major health systems. And we have the payroll and HR system for our current employees, which is UC is the second largest employer in California. And we have the HR and payroll and benefit system for all of our retirees as well, because we have a pension.
Thank you very much. I apologize, I didn't have the slide up for about University of California the whole time, so we'll leave that just for a second. Okay, well, thank you all. I think everyone here is looking forward to hearing more from our panelists as they share their experiences. Tyler, why don't you start us off with Envision Healthcare? Tell us about your migration story.
Yeah, when I showed up about, like I said, about 2.5 years ago, we have on-prem infrastructure. We have got a small cloud footprint. Radiology was there pretty heavy. We had a lot of acquisition work, a lot of M&A activity that created a lot of fragmentation. We had 11 plus data centers that were, I'll say, purpose-built. So not a lot of that traditional where we were running all workloads and all data centers and that. And so we really had to come up with an approach that would allow us to kind of get into a cloud-first mindset. How do we start to migrate? And our end goal being, flexible. So we didn't narrow down AWS as our primary. We have a few workloads that run over in Azure as well, but we tried to stay very open in kind of our methodologies and where we could go. We really wanted to focus in on consolidation of those data centers. How do we get through that? How do we start to build some operational efficiencies? And then how do we also gain some cost savings and some of the other benefits that you're going to get through that migration effort? We leverage different tools, right? They're up there, Transform, our application discovery services, EC2s, RDS customs, and everything else. And so in the early days, we focused in a little bit on kind of our SQL workloads, getting into RDS custom. We tried to, one of those data centers I mentioned, we were able to exit in 2025. Some of that was data center to data center migration. Some of it was, again, being flexible, moving things directly into AWS, more of a lift and shift. And then we also went through an effort to migrate a bunch of workloads to Azure AVS, is what we ended up using there. We've got plans now. We're looking to get out of our last there's 2 more primary data centers left from that 11. We look to get out of that by the end of this year. We're probably going to leak a little bit into 2027. But the tools and those things were very useful in kind of how we organize the environment, those different methodologies and things that we did there. Again, really focused on how do we take the right workloads, get them. Initially, we started out with a little bit of hey, we got to modernize everything. That slowed us down.
Right.
We kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit and kind of moved things back and forth, changed our policies a little bit, and kind of kept things moving. But
did you have were there any AWS workshops or anything like that kind of helped you along the way?
We did our 2 EBAs, which were very helpful.
That's the experience-based acceleration.
Yeah. Thank you. We did a couple of those. We did one earlier this year that was also very helpful. So that's always been very useful to us. We've done work, and we've had a partner involved along with AWS. So Presidio is our partner there with you guys. That's really kind of helped us put some structure around it, but we really brought in folks and dedicated it to this effort. We spent a lot of time up front. I don't want to get into the lesson learned piece yet, so let me keep going on the journey. The tooling and everything, again, was very useful. We did have to push folks to kind of adopt it. A lot of work around. We had 2 organizations, the on-prem folks and the cloud folks. We're all now part of one organization. We leveraged Skill Builder. We leveraged a lot of that partnership with you guys on kind of the efforts that we did there to really kind of upskill folks as we went along the way. Deep down, I think it's been a very positive journey and partnership with how this works.
Great. Angel, you want to take us through your journey at Aeromexico?
Sure. Well, this journey started like 4 years ago. One of the main strategies for Aeromexico was not doing lift and shift per se. We needed to make first an architecture, the structure, had everything set on the paper, just to start moving and really modernizing our application. So we started dividing our applications. All of our applications were based on three main data centers. The idea is to get to lift all these three data centers from premise and go fully cloud. A difference with Tyler as Tyler mentioned, we are moving to only one cloud, only AWS. So that's one of our strategies. So we were planning. One of the goals were to move 350 applications out of those data centers. So we divided our strategies in three at the beginning, or mainly two: refactoring, replatform for our critical workloads, and then we started like looking to different options. During this journey, we ended up having some obsolescence, and a major tech refresh came up for us. So we decided to start looking into options with AWS, with some assessment that you help us with a service that you call Countdown, also with some specialists that you present to us and start looking into EVS. So when we decided here to go to EVS was because one of the main purposes here is that our business partners that were focused on refactoring other applications, they needed to focus on that. So my team, as infrastructure, we decided to take these applications that were left on-prem that will take maybe 12 months to be moved from on-premise to cloud. So, and one of a couple of challenges that we have there is that they wanted to keep our IP addressing in the cloud, so they don't have to make any changes or major changes to the applications. And also, we needed to improve some and start covering some vulnerabilities in cybersecurity that our cybersecurity team showed to us. So we took EVS, we started analyzing, we started talking to our business partner to try knowing how they are handling their applications. And one of our partners, DXC, that is the one that is managing all our on-premise applications, helped us really well because were really novel about the infrastructure that we have there. So we started looking into that. It was like a flip coin, to be honest, because we put all our efforts there in EVS, and at the end, it came really well. We ended up moving 96 servers, around more than 50 applications in only 1 month. Wow. So it was really, really well for us. And at the beginning, just the goal was to move those loads really, really fast to the cloud. But at the end, we end up finding also more capacity for our servers in operational applications that we have. Also, we end up finding that some of our workloads and applications started running really, really fast. So the feedback that we received from our customers were really good.
Not too fast.
Not fast, but really, really good. So we enhanced performance, we enhanced cybersecurity, we enhanced a lot of things, and well, now we're running a lot of our workloads. Of course, we will talk a little bit in the lessons learned, but we have a couple of rollbacks.
So it sounded like a key thing that you were able to do was to move the infrastructure without disruption to the application development. And you did that with EVS and the HCX technology to stretch the networks?
Correct. HCX, we extended our network, our on-prem network, and we end up moving the workloads during night. So no operational impact. We are, of course, an airline, so 24/7 support in our operations. So with no impact, no impacts whatsoever for our clients and our customers.
Great. I know you were an early adopter of EVS, and we thank you for that and your feedback through all that. So I'm glad it's working out and helping with the rapid lift and shift there.
Yep.
All right. Molly, I know you had some interesting application challenges to deal with at University of California. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and your journey?
Yeah, I wish my journey was so strategic. What we started with was emergencies that we had to deal with right away. So we had an HR payroll system that serves about 280,000 employees, and we had a lot of performance issues. It was being managed by a vendor, and it was being managed on a different platform. And we tried to get it to be fixed, we tried to get it better, but every single time we ran payroll, it took longer. And we were really looking at the point where at some point we wouldn't be able to run it on time. So that was the point where we said, enough, we have to move to AWS. So we moved the system over. It took us about 6 months. We worked really, really closely with our AWS partners. And it's always nervous when you do those types of things, right? It's payroll. We have a lot of people that we pay. If you don't get that right, you're in the newspapers. But we moved it over, and all of our performance problems, gone. It was absolutely amazing. I actually had the other vendor call me the day after and say, "How's it going?" And I say, "Hey, all those problems we used to have, I guess it really was the infrastructure all the time." So really big success there. And then we had some other things that came up, like we have the undergraduate admission system, which is, if you ever have dealt with someone who's applying for college, everybody likes to wait until the last 15 minutes to hit go. So we have 250,000 applicants every year, and we close at midnight. Actually, coming, I think, might be today. Last 15 minutes, about 15,000 people hit enter. And 2 years in a row, our system crashed in that last 15 minutes. And so then we're in all the newspapers, all the parents and the students are panicking. We have to extend the deadline. And the president of the university said, "I don't care what you do, but it can't happen in the third year in a row." We tried a lot of things, a lot of performance management stuff, but this is a classic thing where it's down here and then it's up here and then it's down here the rest of the time. You just can't put enough servers together for that. So that one we partnered with AWS, got it up there, and what the really cool thing about that is they wanted it to succeed as much as we did. They were up with us at 11:59, adjusting dials and all that stuff. And actually, even now, it's our third year there, they're still with us at midnight, making sure it goes well. We also, following that, we had to get off the mainframe. I know, we had a mainframe. So we moved off the mainframe. It was very expensive to be on a mainframe. If anyone has ever been on a mainframe, or maybe still on a mainframe. And we had data that we had to keep. We have some retention things where you have to either keep data for 50 or 99 years. That's another story. But we moved it all to AWS, and we turned off the mainframe and saved $3 million. And that was one where we worked with Deloitte to get that done. They're actually pretty good at turning off mainframes. And after we had all these different successes, then we just said, enough. We want to just be on one platform. So we started a project to move everything else, and really, really lucky because that was right about the time that the VMware stuff was changing. And we had a plan to get it all done in a certain period of time. We had to accelerate that at the end to avoid the VMware costs, which we did. And now we're 100% in AWS. And I think that you really have to know what you're doing there. We'll talk more about lessons learned. But we worked with partners, and at this point, our team is so good because we've done it so many times that we're a lot more comfortable with it.
I think you mentioned you had some security things as well that you were trying to...
Oh, yeah. One thing I'll mention, it's not something I'm super proud of, but I guess we're okay now. When we moved everything over, just by moving everything through, we resolved about 60,000 vulnerabilities. So that's just an important thing to think about. It's like we're getting better performance. We actually were able to reduce cost, and we resolved a lot of our software vulnerabilities. Part of that is, the fact that they're managing it for us, so we don't have to constantly patching and patching and patching. The other piece of it is it forced us to look at everything on those servers. I'm not going to lie, there was some old stuff on there and we didn't know what it was. So, we had things out there that had been there for 15 years. We didn't know what it was, but we had to go through and figure it all out. We had about 15 zombie servers running stuff we didn't even need. So by going through that and getting rid of that stuff, we reduced our security vulnerability footprint and we reduced cost.
Fantastic. Great stories, and I think everyone's going to benefit from that. We'd like to transition now to our lessons learned section. I think the audience would love to hear from each of you a little bit about some of maybe the challenges you had along the way, and just basically how you resolved those and things you'd like to share. Tyler, you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, one of our big ones was really because of that fragmentation I mentioned. We had a lot of those lost toys. 15, that's nothing. We had a ton of stuff in the environment that we just didn't know either what it was, what was on it. It had been there for a long time. It was, one person using an application, et cetera. And so really kind of understanding that the ecosystem, whether you have a good CMDB or not, or you need something to come in and help with discovery, we were able to identify a ton of prior retains. And we ran into the same VMware cost thing. So we reduced from about 5,000 cores down to 22 in about 9 months, just through those efforts of kind of re-pushing and really driving from an IT perspective into the application owners in the business and calling out like, okay, do you really need it? Because their first answer was always yes. And I mean, we identified, and again, AS400 stuff that had been out there for a while. We just kept pushing. So it was almost like don't take retain as the first answer, or don't take the first answer as the truth. You've got to push on it,
Right.
which seems a little weird sometimes from IT, of where we're pushing the business on the need of their
Were you
applications.
empowered to make those
We
decisions?
were.
Yeah.
We partnered with them. Probably shouldn't say it out loud. Sometimes I'm looking for the illusion of choice in some of those conversations, but
Sure.
a little bit of that leading them to the, hey, here's where we're headed and here's what we're
Right.
going to do.
But a common vision is
Yes.
ultimately what
Yeah.
you were after. Angela, you want to share a few things?
Yeah, I think, well, for us, the main challenge was at the beginning time, right? Because we decided to use EVS. EVS, we came up with the idea of EVS this year. We planned it this year and we executed it this year. Yeah. So the time was really, really challenging, and we needed to talk with cybersecurity teams, with architecture team, to see how this will work. And then contact our partner, DXC, start looking into the solution, how it will work, how do we connect, how do we extend this VLAN, this connectivity to the EVS environment, and start looking into all these pieces, and then taking the teams together and see how their applications run, if they will have some concerns, if they don't, if they have the time to test, because they were, as I mentioned, they were focusing on other modernization and other things. So I think those were one of the biggest challenges.
So you got their buy-in early to do testing. That you didn't have to pull them off their development projects, but as you migrated infrastructure, you had their buy-in, I guess, to validate.
Yeah, they needed to validate, and also the user, right? And also then go to the business and then, hey, we're moving these workloads that are really, really big, really important. Mm-hmm. All the company knows how is our strategy for the main and the critical applications that we have. So taking this different approach was a bit difficult with them, just for show them, hey, we will move these workloads in a different manner that you are used to. So you need to test and you need to help us. And now it's a shorter time frame. So that was a challenge as well. But also we will learn in the way that at the beginning, as I discussed previously here in our conversations, EVS was only a transition point. Well, we were thinking in only moving our workloads to EVS to then start moving to another modernization plans that we will discuss later. But one of the things that we find out there is that all these benefits and all this agility that even EVS gave us as a transition point, we started to think, hey, what happens if we keep some workloads here? Not all of them, because of course we have other plans, but those one of the things that we started learning there. And at the end, we started reducing some costs because we already moved some of our workloads to the cloud. So we have on-prem services with bigger servers, with a big environment that we didn't need it anymore. So also when we moved everything to the EVS, we reduced some costs.
What was the learning curve, if there was one, for the EVS move? You had VMware knowledgeable administrators and staff?
I think the key point here is that I think the knowledge that our partner and my team has, it was like kind of the same. Of course, we needed to learn a bit, but as I mentioned, the challenge was the time. So they keep up, they start scaling up. This countdown or this service with AWS helped us a lot because we had the main person to help us with this solution and with these challenges. So the learning curve was really, really short.
Was there any resistance to just the whole concept of moving to the cloud? I mean, a lot of people like to run their workloads in the place that they built them, maybe, you know?
Well, I mean, at the beginning, of course, we have some barriers, some pushback, but at the end, we needed to move them.
Move. So you had some real deadlines. You had a bigger objective to close data centers.
Correct. Correct. The bigger objective was close the data center and not doing a tech refresh.
Gotcha. Thank you. That was really helpful. Molly, I'm not ready to move on.
So for lessons learned for us, when we first started, prior to me coming to Office of the President, the system-wide office, they had given AWS to a lot of people in my group. They're like, hey, we'll give you some training, here's some access, fly be free, just mess around. I would not suggest that as a strategy. When I came into the organization, people were really excited about AWS. So that part was really cool, that people were really interested in the cloud. But what we had is people messing around, doing things that cost us a lot of money, doing things that weren't set up in a secure way, doing things that weren't adding a lot of value. And so, then I had to sort of claw it all back. So that part was not ideal. We did get interest, but you can't just have people throwing an app up into AWS but keeping the database, in the data center. So lots of things like that where people just didn't know because they were learning. I brought in a cloud leader who had a lot of experience doing cloud at two different other organizations, who set standards, had governance, put in the FinApps things, and we went from $50,000 a month to $10,000 a month in cost, and massively increased security. But I was very unpopular when I sort of clawed it all back. So that was one of my lessons learned is, from the very beginning, you need to have governance, you need to have standards, and you need to have leadership, not just our partners, but you need to have leadership in IT that knows what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. Another big lesson learned for me is our big project that we were moving that HR payroll system, our very first project, to AWS. We had it all planned, we had a budget, and then COVID hit, and our budget got cut. And it was really disappointing, but the team my team didn't want to tell the vendor anything. Like, we don't talk to the vendor, they're just going to sell us stuff. But treating the vendor like a business partner and saying, hey, this is what happened to us. We really want to do this, but our budget got cut and we don't see a way to do it. And just saying, this is the reality of the situation. And then we were able to get AWS to figure some things out with some of the programs that they had that we weren't even aware of. And that was what enabled us to move forward. So whether it's AWS or any other vendor that you're going to work with closely, treating them like a business partner and just telling them what's going on. This is our problem. And maybe they can't help you, but at least you have trust. Or maybe they can help you in ways that you may not have fathomed because they're going to have access to these different programs that you might have. Gotcha. So I think that's a big thing, is when there's problems, when you think you have to cancel, when there's problems with leadership, whatever it is, just be honest and be straight up. I mean, they're already your business partners, so you may as well let them in on it to help solve the problem.
Yeah, can I?
Yeah,
on? Yeah,
please,
something similar, right? When starting out, we had a couple of folks that were doing FinOps, and they were kind of isolated. They were in their own little groups, and they were pulled together recently. I think just ahead of when I actually got there, and we had actually started that discipline within the organization. And I wouldn't do this without it, right? So if there's one thing you're going to set up first, it would be a FinOps. Get an idea what's going on in the environment. Have the ability to find it. We've identified a ton of wasted infra in on-prem, and we identified a ton in our cloud environments as well. But we stay on top of it, so we get the alert. They've got partnership out into the business, and it works really well when you show them the dollars and you go in and it's like, hey, what happened? And it's not a month later. It's not 2 months later. It's a day. It's within that first week typically that we identify that. And again, like you mentioned, take advantage of the programs, whether it be MAP or other, right, for the migration assistance program. Those things, work with and partner with either your partner and or AWS to take advantage of those programs.
Anything else you want to add?
I totally agree. Take advantage of the MAP program as well. We use that.
Yeah.
And the FinOps, at the beginning, we have some questions on how this different approach with EVS will work. But of course, having this all these procedures, all the team, all the efforts, all the knowledge from AWS to control the budget, to control this FinOps approach, it's really important for taking this kind of strategies.
And it sounds like, I think I heard common across all three companies, getting that centralized buy-in and sort of a center of excellence established. It's really important, setting a precedent for how this can be successful. Molly, I remember you saying, getting focused on a particular application. It's like...
Well, we had burning platform after burning platform, so it was easy.
That makes it easy to pick, I suppose. Great. Well, very interesting. So let's transition now. Now that you were all running workloads in AWS, I'm curious on your thoughts about what's on your roadmap, modernization plans, or if you've already modernized, what's coming for you? Angel, why don't we start with you this time?
Sure. Well, right now we are around we will end up 2025 around 25 to 90% of our applications on cloud with different strategies. Of course, we need to keep moving ahead and start maturing our applications, mainly our Tier 0 and Tier 1 applications. So, talking about the applications that we have in EVS, we have a couple of options there. Our Tier 0 and Tier 1, they will go through a refactoring process or a replatform process, for sure. But now we are starting to look into what tier 2 and tier 3 apps need to be modernized, which one of them will be retired because maybe some of the features will go to another application that we already have and we've been modernized, or which one of them will stay there. And then if we are keeping some of those applications in EBS, is how do we improve the reliability, or if we we need to start thinking in maybe having another region from AWS for DRP as DRP for or backup plan for EBS. So I think that's one of the things that we are looking into that. Our modernization will keep going. We have other strategies that will leverage all the modernization that we already have. So it's important to keep moving along the modernization.
And your teams are continuing to do modernization activities?
They will still continue. They will still continue mainly for one of our towers. They have some applications left to 2026. Our plan is actually to end up with all our applications on cloud for 2026 and decommission all the three big or main data centers that we have for 2026 as well.
Great. Molly, you want to go next?
Yeah, so we had started this process, years ago, and then we really kind of finished up. So we recently put everything we had into AWS, and we got done a little bit faster than we had originally planned because of the VMware sort of financial crisis that was coming our way. So there are some things that we can continue to do to modernize because we wanted to do things a certain way, but because of the VMware thing, we had to move really, really fast. So we're going back and doing some of the modernization efforts on some of those things moved over. The other piece is, and this is sort of not my usual strategy, but some of the partners that we signed up with at the beginning, we had a partner that took over our HR and payroll system because at the time, we didn't have a lot of cloud people. We didn't really know what we're doing. We're like, they're going to be better at managing than us. Over time, we've grown to be honestly better at doing it than they are. And so, they make a lot of mistakes. They charge us a lot of money. And we actually put together a plan recently that says, we're going to keep it, it's on AWS. We're going to keep it on AWS, but we're going to take it back. I don't normally want to do that. Usually you get people who are out there and they really are good at this stuff, but our HR payroll system, I'm just going to say it, it's a little customized. It's not cookie cutter. It's not easy. It's PeopleSoft. It's old. You know what I'm talking about, some of you, okay? And it's very custom. So this vendor isn't great at doing it, but we are because we live it. So we're going to pull that back in. We're going to hire 10 people to basically do the care and feeding of it. But I think our team's going to be better at it. That's what I found because over time we've been able to hire people that are all cloud people. We don't have to be in two worlds.
Gotcha. Tyler, why don't you share some things?
We had a blend of things to do, right, with those kind of disparate data centers. So we had some applications that we were able to kind of modernize as we went. We had some that made sense based on data gravity, like I mentioned before, that ended up in Azure. But we focused in on that. We ended up, like I mentioned, doing AWS, and that was just, again, to get us out, shut down data centers. We plan on being out of all data centers. There's one that really doesn't count that'll be there for longer term, but somebody else manages it outside of the company. But so we plan on being out late 26, maybe a little bit into 27, where we'll be full cloud in a hybrid because we do have some other SaaS stuff that runs actually out in Oracle. But from a modernization perspective, that's our goal now is as we move those things to AWS, now we're going to modernize out of there and into AWS. If there's some workload that makes sense, we can put it wherever we want. But the majority of that's going to go that way. We plan on leveraging the migration lab. So we're in talks with them right now on finding and identifying the right workload. We had stuff.
Is that the modernization lab?
Yes, the AWS modernization lab. So we're working with them to identify the right target for that to leverage some of those things that can kind of use some of the new tooling, et cetera, to kind of modernize, upgrade the code, document stuff that we, some poor guy that came in and the developer that is long gone, so he's inherited that environment. So what do you do to put some of that stuff in place? We had issues with HA and DR capabilities, so that alone was enhanced as we migrated our workloads where it made sense. So we still have some things that are don't have as stringent of SLAs and things like that around it. So we've kind of tried to manage that. But we also have a lot of applications that are moving to either an off-the-shelf or SaaS platform that will just need to write out, right? So we have some keep the lights on. So we may choose not to modernize those and just write them out and then make sure that we can decom them in the end. So we've got every flavor of kind of thing going on in the environment that we have to manage.
As you have ongoing education for your teams, things like the AWS well-architected framework and all that.
Yeah, we leverage, again, I don't think I'd said skill builder yet here, but when we were talking earlier, I actually referenced it to my cab ride over. He was saying he was learning AWS,
Oh, really?
so I pushed him towards skill builder as an example of where to go find, those types of things and classes and things that you can take. So we leverage that heavily. And we've also blended the teams together. So the folks that were in the on-prem, obviously they helped and did a lot of that migration into AWS, which would be similar with the EVS solution. And we were partnering them up on the migrations and really trying to cross-train and just get them together as a group versus this whole we're two separate teams and things like that. And
Gotcha.
Skill Builder's been huge on that upskill of our folks.
Great. Is that something you make use of as well, Angel?
Yeah, and also I want to add here that not only focusing on EVS, but all other applications that we are doing these modernizations, we are working today with our architecture team is trying to make a framework about how do we need to mature every application that we have to make to really leverage and have all the advantages that the refactoring or the modernizations can give us to our applications. Yeah. So this is something that is a work in progress, and it's part of the modernization plan that we have already.
Good. Molly, anything to add?
Yeah, I think that because we've been doing this over a long period of time, as people leave, we've really been saying, okay, we're going towards cloud, so we're going to hire more cloud people. So it's not like we started with a team of a lot of cloud experts. We had a couple. But over time, as you're going there, every time someone leaves, we bring in somebody who's really focused on that area. And we also take advantage of a lot of the training that's offered, because there are people who are interested in going that direction and can learn. But I have a pretty aging organization. The average age of, you guys are going to be surprised when you hear this, but the average age of IT at my organization is 51, because a lot of people, when they go to the UC, they go there to retire, to get a pension, right? So we have a lot of older folks. So
and you have their record still.
Yeah.
For 99 years.
99 years.
99 years, we got to keep it. So because of that, some of those folks, they're interested in learning, but some of them are like, hey, I'm only going to be here for like 3 more years. So they kind of ride it out. So we have different people there, but we've been largely successful at building that team out.
Great. Any other modernization thoughts while we're on the topic?
Anything you do to go with that automation first kind of mindset, kind of get folks out of even the manual builds,
infrastructure
right?
as code.
Yeah, infrastructure as code, the Terraform stuff, the things that we did to kind of push that a little bit too is, I think it's every week when we're on this get together, I have an employee of mine that's constantly saying, hey, just give me more, right? So I'm like fill his queue, keep him busy, because there's so many things out there that we can do from an automation perspective that we just weren't taking advantage of. So I think we're getting into that and building that out as we go as well.
And did you leverage any of the Terraform things?
Yeah, we're following also strategies with Amazon Q, for example, for our developers. They are using they are using it a bit more, and the idea here is for them to be more agile, to keep modernizing. And now the new request from the business will come out really fast, with all this effort and all this modernization that we have.
Yeah. And for EVS specifically, did you script the build of your environment? You did. I know you stretched your networks and you did migrations. How did you actually do the migrations? Did you did live migrations, or you did them at night?
We did it at night, actually. Yeah. At the beginning, of course, it was a lot of planning before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, all of our migrations were at night. We need really small time frames, one hour and a half, because of our operations. But yeah, we did it at night.
Thinking ahead to maybe future modernization of those workloads, things like AWS transfer for VMware, that's something that could potentially play into discovery of that environment if you're choosing to migrate.
We're trying to look into AWS Transform, actually, to start moving those applications to the cloud.
But as you said, they're fine where they are.
I'll just mention something, because you said Amazon Q. We did find something that was helpful with that recently. We have, unfortunately, because we are an education organization, we have some custom stuff. Okay, we have a lot of custom stuff. I wish we had 0 custom stuff, but we do. So there's a tool in Q that allows you to go from Java 17 to 21 with help, with basically the AI help. And so we did utilize that for all of our 17 to move it to 21. It was actually really helpful. The team was really suspect of it. They said, we'll try it with one and we'll see. But they were pretty happy with it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, with stuff like that, as it matures and you can take advantage of it. I mean, I mentioned a bunch of kind of keep the lights on and these apps that we might write out. It still may be of value if it's that one developer, we don't know that much, and so we're afraid to touch it or we're afraid to patch it, that we may still go ahead and throw it at these tools just to see what we get. So it's like getting people to change that mindset a little bit of like, why not, right? Let's go ahead and throw this at it, see what it produces, and if it's easier to understand and maintain, even though we're just going to kind of ride it out for the next year and a half or two, it still makes sense to run through those types of tools.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on modernization? All right, well, thank you very much. That was a great discussion. I think it was really beneficial for everybody. If you are interested in learning how you can get started, we recommend these basic steps. First, assess your VMware estate. We think the best way to do this is with an OLA, an optimization and licensing assessment. Customers tell us this is extremely valuable to them. Even before they implement the recommendations of the assessment, a lot of the information provided is beneficial and can actually save you money. Second is leverage the AWS partner network. We have over 460 migration competency partners who can help you with your migration. So don't hesitate to work with them. As you've seen, several of our customers here have done that with various partners. Next, decide on your approach and strategy. I mean, do you want to start with a single application, maybe help improve performance or increase resiliency? Or perhaps you're facing a hardware refresh or a data center lease expiration and you've got a compelling event, you've got to make a decision and move the whole thing and plan a full data center migration. But once you've decided on your approach, we can help you with training, support, services, purpose-built technologies. We've got ISV tools that can help with migration services. And also the incentive programs, MAP, as was mentioned several times. We have these services. We really want to help you, so please partner with your AWS account team. If you have a technical account manager, if you have an account SA, don't hesitate to ask them what they can bring to the table for you in terms of funding or, like I said, third-party tools, et cetera. Excuse me. I also want to leave you with these QR codes for a few resources that you can leverage this week, including the AWS for VMware reInvent guide. This will help you quickly locate interesting VMware sessions at the conference this week. We've got a nice blog post together with all of those put together. Next, there's a link on getting started with a migration assessment. This will help you reduce costs and build your business case. And then finally, a link to the AWS for VMware website where you can keep up with our latest offerings and announcements. And then this eye chart here, sorry. Please feel free to take a photograph of this, but this is a slide showcasing all the additional AWS for VMware sessions happening this week at reInvent. A couple to call out. There's an AWS Transform workshop Tuesday at 12:30 p.m., as well as 2 AWS Transform breakout sessions on Wednesday morning. And there's a number of chalk talks, including an Amazon EVS deep dive Wednesday afternoon, as well as an EVS deep dive into networking and storage architecture on Thursday. Also, please stop by our migration and modernization neighborhood in the AWS Village for demonstrations and Q&A with our experts. And again, thank you all for your time. Please give special thanks to our panelists. Thank you for being here. Really insightful. Appreciate you all making the effort to be here. And please remember to complete the session survey in the mobile application for this session. It is MAM203, MAM203. Thank you again for your time.